There are your odds for Offensive Rookie of the Year, courtesy of the DraftKings Sportsbook. No surprise, Caleb Williams, the favorite, at plus 135. Some other names on there that are interesting, but, Devin, from my perspective, the more you touch the ball, the more likely you're going to be the Offensive Rookie of the Year. And I know some receivers have won it. You've really got to have a big statistical season as a receiver to overcome a guy who's got the ball in his hands all the time, especially if it's a quarterback who runs. Running back who is the guy who falls into a situation where he's the workhorse, he's got a chance. Quarterback who runs the ball and adds some touchdowns on the ground has a chance. Receivers really got to have one of those holy crap years to be the Offensive Rookie of the Year.
And it's fresh in our mind because we're coming off these years when we watched Justin Jefferson, we watched Jamar Chase come in and just been absolute studs. The one guy I do think as a receiver, if they could get it done, I think it could be Malik Neighbors, from going to 2 Giants practices and just the feeling of like, this is our guy. I think you didn't get to see it as much in the preseason games. They're going to have a lot of plays drawn up to get the ball in his hands. So I think if there is a receiver that can do it, and, obviously I didn't get to see much of Marvin Harrison Jr. I think, again, watching the preseason games, it's difficult to see. But I think Arizona has a little bit more there from an offensive standpoint of guys that can get the ball to. I think even with Kyler Murray's ability to run around and make plays, I think that changes. But I think the Giants can have a lot of things drawn up for Malik Neighbors. But I think Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams are the guys that we should expect to see in a race to get their Offensive Player of the Year for rookies.
11-1 are the odds for Malik Neighbors. At 35-1 is the third overall pick in the draft, Drake Maye, the new quarterback of the New England Patriots. Now, after the game on Sunday night, the preseason game, Jerod Mayo, the first-year head coach, said that Drake Maye is the second best quarterback on the roster. But then yesterday, Jerod Mayo kind of contradicted himself. Here's Mayo talking about his rookie quarterback, Drake Maye.
It starts in practice and also in the game where, Drake has played better. Now, in saying that, everyone wants to know like who the starter is going to be. I think there are multiple factors that kind of have to go into this decision. One is the total body of work, whether we're talking about the spring or the entirety of training camp. And then I would also say, oftentimes we forget about just the overall experience that a guy like Jacoby has, which will also be weighted in the decision that we have to make here in the near future. But I'm happy with the way those guys are, battling it out, and hopefully over the next couple of days we can name a starter and get the season rolling.
The money quote from Mayo was this is a true competition, and I would say at this current point, Drake has outplayed Jacoby. A day after he said Drake is the second best quarterback on the roster. And we were talking about this yesterday. We were having some fun, and one of the other folks in the room, and I don't want to name names because I never want to talk publicly about things that maybe people don't want mentioned publicly, but somebody said, this is why you get coach speak. And people complain about coach speak, but when you get coach speak, you don't get one thing one day and the other thing the next day.
All right, I think I speak a little Jerod, the years that we've known each other. I think he thoroughly meant just the preseason games. And this is not me talking to him after these comments. I just, from being down there, from being around the guys and talking to a lot of different people, it just has a feeling of Drake Maye, the last 2 games, has played really well in the games. And I think when he said we have to go back and evaluate the total body, I think that's what he's saying. The joint practice against the Eagles, the everyday training camp practices, back in the spring, they need to put all of that together to see who's going to be the starting quarterback, because I think they're going to now fight with so many people wanting to see more of Drake Maye because we watched him in these preseason games. But I think the reality is, and no head coach is ever going to say that, but the reality is some of these plays for Drake Maye are coming against guys that it stinks to say this, but these guys, they're not NFL players. They won't be in the NFL this year. And you have to take that into account. Like, this is not going to look like this in 2 weeks when they have to go play against the Cincinnati Bengals. They're not going to see those defenses. They're not going to see that level of player out there. Everything's going to be better. So I think they're still cautious to just throw Drake Maye out of there. But I will say, I think Jerod Mayo is also learning. I think he's figuring things out every single day that he's now becoming a head coach. He went from being a position coach where you're talking, well, I think it was once a week, to, I know Coach Belichick used to always tell us, hey, if I have something to say to you as a player, I'm going to say it to you. I'm not going to go into media. I'm not doing any extra media. I already have to talk to the media 6 days out of a 7-day week during the season. I'm not in a rush to go give them more content. I think Jerod Mayo is figuring that out every single week of how much do I want to talk about this? How much do I want to go into this? And I think he's starting to figure out, all right, this quarterback situation, less might be more.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not complaining about coach who chooses to talk, because 24 years of guy who rolls his eyes and has some pull string dull catchphrase and grunts, and then you ask him a question about the wing tee and he talks for 25 minutes. I mean, I like the fact that coaches will speak a little bit. Elliot Wolf spoke recently about possible Brandon Ayuk trade. My head almost exploded. I couldn't believe he actually answered the question and didn't say, I don't talk about players who aren't on the team, which I've heard from Bill 1,000 times in the last 24 years. So I like it, but it does create some issues. Now, one of the things with Drake Maye is it as simple as we want to bring this guy along. We want to protect him because we know the team isn't Super Bowl caliber. And you look at their schedule, you got some defenses that could maybe break a guy's spirit before he ever learns how to fly.
I think so. And I think those guys have been in New England for a while. So they can remember, not maybe all of them, but some of those guys, they can remember Sam Darnold coming into the Jets. They remember Zach Wilson coming in and playing. Like, those are the things that you look at and you're trying to figure out, okay, when do we put this guy out there? Okay, when we put him out there, do we have enough to put him out there and say, hey, Drake, this is the best we can do, and we think it's pretty damn good. And I think right now, yes, Drake Maye was a stud and he played really well in that game. But the other side of that was, I think they had 4 illegal formation penalties. Jacoby Brissett almost got killed on the opening drive on a play action pass. They had a lot of things go wrong, and they only had one guy not in there on the offensive line. They didn't have David Andrews in there, and it was just like they had no chance to run a successful play. As we've all heard before, a lot of coaches say when you botch a snap, we could go get the local high school team to come in here and have a center quarterback exchange. They did that twice. So you start to look, and I think you don't want to see the frustrations boil over. I compared it on air during a Sunday night game to, they all witnessed the Mac Jones situation. And some people right away was like, well, Mac Jones was successful in year 1. I know that. But the years that he wasn't successful, year 2, year 3, they started to pile up, and the frustrations just went overboard, and then it goes south for everybody. The guy, it doesn't go well for him and the fan base. It doesn't go well for him and the coaching staff. And then you just see the whole thing fall apart. They can't do that again with Drake Maye. You can't have that situation. So to put a guy out there and he's going to be in charge of trying to get everything to move in the right direction, and then God forbid David Andrews isn't out there, you're going to just now say, hey, Drake Maye, the center's not there, and I know we were starting you. We're now going to pull you. You can't do that. So I think the plan, is still in place for them to say, hey, Jacoby Brissett, you've been in some bad situations before in your career. You can handle this. We're going to try to keep you safe, but better you go down on our number 3 pick. I think that's going to happen over just sending Drake Maye out there to the Wolves.
What a niche to have in the NFL. Hey, Jacoby, you've quarterbacked some crap teams before, and you've lived to tell about it. Here are the keys.
Think
Good
about
luck.
Jacoby's
Godspeed.
situation. Jacoby, you go in, you're in Indy, Andrew Luck comes in, he retires. Go ahead, Jacoby. You go to Cleveland, they get Deshaun Watson, everybody's happy. He gets suspended 11 games. Go ahead, Jacoby. And the truth of the matter is, the guy's done pretty well in those situations. We heard Matt Berry all year last year in our screening room talk about, don't put Jacoby Brissett in, Commanders. We don't want you to go win 6, 7, 8 games and get a lesser draft pick. He wanted to see Sam Howell in there and then end up with Jaden Daniels. So I think for Jacoby Brissett, It's the niche you have. He's been paid pretty decently over the course of his career to do it. And, I know the guy well. He enjoys going out there and playing quarterback. He feels like he's the guy. He likes being in New England right now. He's looking forward to going quarterback in this team and hopefully making this team better than what a lot of people think they can be.
And you look at that schedule that we had up, it is going to be a long year. Now, I would have said the same thing about the Texans last year, and I probably did say the same thing about the Texans, and lo and behold, they proved everyone wrong. It's not like just one or two voices. Nobody thought the Texans had a chance last year. This schedule, there isn't even a natural spot where I say, oh, there's where they would flip to Drake Maye and try to make a run. This is just, can we survive this gauntlet? I mean, it's week after week, Devin.
Those four defenses, you don't have the Seattle defense where you used to be able to say, hey, when we play Seattle, this defense is really good, but we know where they're going to be at. No, this is Mike Macdonald now. There's going to be blitzers coming from everywhere. And then to say, hey, we're going to play the Bengals with Lou Anamarino and then go to Seattle. But then we're going to say, hey, no, you're going to play the Jets and the 49ers the next 2 weeks. I just think maybe there's a chance you say, let's come up those first 4 weeks and evaluate. But those first 4 weeks for a rookie quarterback, those are some of the 4 hardest weeks you can be in. At least the thought process a little bit, even in week 3 and 4 with the Jets and the 49ers they're not as complicated scheme-wise normally. They're not sending guys from all over the place. But now you're going to, if you're not good up front or you're not sure, you want to go and block Nick Bosa, you want to deal with Quentin Williams. You want to deal with these different guys. If Hassan Reddick comes back for the Jets, you want to deal. You're now talking about dealing with some of these situations that you always say, let's protect this rookie quarterback. And now you also have Alex Van Pelt. All of this is brand new. So I think you definitely want to work out some of the kinks. And when you talk about Houston last year, they had a trade. I forgot for who late in the training camp. They traded for a tackle. They traded for Shaq Mason early in the offseason. And they also had Laremy Tunsil, a guy that you can say, hey, we're going to slide away from him as much as possible, put him on an island, let him win one-on-one and help everywhere else. You had a plan offensively with your offensive line on how to be successful to help your rookie quarterback. I'm not sure New England, even if they think of a great plan, can really figure out how to make sure that offensive line can withstand some of the guys and the pressures they're going to see those first 4 weeks.
So basically what Devin is saying is those 35-1 odds you saw for Drake Maye to be the offensive rookie of the year, probably not the best bet you would ever make. Maybe those odds should be a little bit longer. By the way, those odds did come from DraftKings Sportsbook, which is the place, number one place, not just the place, but the number one place to bet touchdowns. And new customers can get $5 or bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Plus, get 1 month of NFL Plus Premium. Download the app and use promo code PFT Live when you sign up. When we return, we're going to do some AFC East predictions yearbook style. That's next here on PFT Live. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.